In 1981, somewhere in Portland, Oregon, an arcade machine appeared without warning. No adverts, no manufacturer, no instructions. It wasn't meant to be fun, and those who played it later complained of migraines, blackouts, and dreams they couldn't explain. Children fought over access to it. Men in dark suits were seen opening the cabinet, not to collect coins, but to collect data. And then, just as suddenly as it arrived, the machine vanished. No records, no photographs, no proof it ever existed. Only a name remembered by those who claim they saw it. Polybius. A game that didn't entertain, it observed. And the most disturbing question isn't whether Polybius was real, it's why so many people remember it the same way. In the early 1980s, American arcades were loud, chaotic places. Neon lights, flickering screens, rows of machines competing for attention. But according to a small number of people in a handful of arcades in Portland, Oregon, there was one cabinet that did not invite players in. It loomed, unmarked, black, silent. No artwork, no character, no instructions, only a name etched in plain lettering above the screen. Polybius. Those who played it say it did not reward skill, it did not entertain, it just tested. And after it disappeared, it left behind headaches, nightmares, and a question that refuses to die. Was Polybius a game or an experiment? To understand Polybius, we must first understand the world it was said to emerge from. The early 1980s marked the golden age of arcade gaming. Machines arrived rapidly, many were poorly documented, cabinets were often modified locally, ROM boards were swapped, copied and lost. Regulation was minimal. There was also a period of growing concern. Children were spending hours in front of flashing screens. Doctors warned of eye strain. News reports linked video games to addiction, aggression and seizures. The arcade was not just entertainment, to some it was a social experiment already underway. Every version of the Polybius legend begins in the same place, Portland, Oregon. The year was 1981. At the time, Portland was home to a dense network of small, independently run arcades, many operating with little oversight. Cabinets were rotated frequently, machines arrived, disappeared and reappeared under different names. It was the perfect environment for rumours to take root. According to later accounts, Polybius appeared in one or more Portland arcades without explanation. No advertisements announced it, no manufacturer logo appeared on the cabinet. The machine was described as a matte black, visually plain and out of place among brightly coloured games. Witnesses claim it drew children almost immediately, not because it looked inviting, but because it felt different. The gameplay, according to memory, was abstract and aggressive. Flashing shapes, sudden changes, visual noise designed to overwhelm rather than entertain. Some claim the machine was tested quietly, watched closely and then removed. Others insist it was relocated, moved from arcade to arcade, as though its presence was temporary by design. There are no contemporary newspaper reports from 1981 that mention Polybius. That absence matters, because it places the story firmly in the realm of oral history, the kind built from memory, repetition and fear. Portland 1981 becomes less a documented event and more a point of origin, a place where a story began and was allowed to grow unchecked.
Well, they come as if from outer space in a variety of weird guises. Defender, Pac-Man, asteroids. To fans, they represent a challenge. But to critics, as Terry Drinkwater reports, they are a menace.
Now, what elevated Polybius from rumour to legend were the stories told about its impact on children. Not verified reports, not police records, just stories. Accounts passed between arcade regulars repeated years later with unsettling consistency. Children who played the game were said to suffer sudden illness, violent migraines, nausea, disorientation. Some accounts go even further. They describe children collapsing in arcades, shaking, fitting, or losing consciousness after extended gameplay. Seizures were mentioned repeatedly in retellings of the story, and this detail again matters. During the early arcade era, photosensitive epilepsy was poorly understood, and flashing visuals were already a public concern. Polybius in the legend became the extreme version of that fear. Then come the darkest claims, stories of children who stopped coming to the arcade, children who were hospitalised, and in the most disturbing versions of the legend, children who allegedly died after playing the game. No names were ever given, no dates, no death certificates. Because what Polybius trades in is not documentation, but dread. Another recurring rumour claims that children who became seriously ill were later reported as having gone missing. That the same men seen inspecting the cabinet were also seen speaking quietly to arcade owners. And that after those visits, both the machine and the child were gone. There is no evidence of any child ever being abducted, harmed or killed as a result of a video game called Polybius. But the persistence of these rumours reveals something else, a deep cultural anxiety. A fear that children were being exposed to something they could not understand, something adults could not control, and something that blurred entertainment, technology and authority. Polybius became the vessel for that fear. Nearly every version of the Polybius legend includes the same characters, men in dark suits. They did not play the game, they did not speak to patrons. They opened the cabinet, they examined the internal components, and they recorded information. Witnesses insist they were not collecting money, they were collecting data. Therefore, the implication is clear. Polybius was not built to entertain, it was built to observe. Some accounts take the Polybius story even further. They claim the machine contained subliminal messages, visual or auditory, flashed too quickly to be consciously registered. Words such as obey, submit, no thought, conform. There is no evidence that these messages ever appeared on a Polybius screen. But the fear behind the claim did not come from nowhere, and in 1975 the American public learned something deeply unsettling. For more than 20 years, the CIA had operated a covert research program known as MK-Ultra. Its purpose was to explore whether the human mind could be manipulated, conditioned or broken without the subject's consent. Under MK-Ultra, ordinary people were unknowingly exposed to psychoactive drugs including LSD, sensory deprivation, sleep deprivation, and psychological stress and coercion. The goal was not entertainment, it was just control. When congressional investigations exposed MK-Ultra, many records had already been destroyed. The full extent of the program will never be known, and this is where the Polybius story stops sounding absurd. Because in the early 1980s, the public already knew one thing for certain, that governments had experimented on civilians before. They had done so quietly, and they had done so in the name of national security. So it was against that backdrop, the idea of a behavioural experiment disguised as an arcade game no longer sounded impossible. It sounded plausible.
We are not professing to tell you the complete story of these activities. We are professing to tell you the complete story that we know.
Right.
But these records that we've uncovered don't tell the story. They tell pieces of it.
This is a story that has been told in bits and pieces. This is an attempt to pull most of it together. We know we don't have the full story. We do, however, have some striking new revelations and insights. The story begins here, just off the nation's front yard, the Mall. The buildings behind me were the headquarters for the World War II Office of Strategic...
According to the legend, Polybius' cabinets were removed within weeks. Never any announcement, no recalls, they were simply gone. No manufacturer records exist, no arcade purchase orders, no surviving hardware. In a world where even failed arcade games usually leave traces, Polybius left none. And this raises a question: how does something so dangerous vanish without a footprint? Now, names do matter, especially in stories like this. And Polybius is not a random word, nor does it originate from early computing culture. The name comes from Polybius of Megalopolis, a Greek historian writing over 2,000 years ago. The word itself can be broken down as follows: poly, from the Greek polis, meaning many, multiple, complex, overlapping, and bios, derived from bios, meaning life. Put together, Polybius can be read as many lives or many behaviours, a system not designed for a single individual but for populations. Polybius, the historian, believed societies followed predictable cycles, that people could be studied, guided, and under the right conditions, controlled. Whether intentional or coincidental, the name fits the legend too well to ignore. This was not a game about points or progress, it was a machine concerned with reaction, compliance, endurance, not entertainment, never entertainment, but for behaviour. Skeptics are very clear over Polybius, and Polybius almost certainly never existed. The earliest written references appeared decades after the supposed events, and human memory is unreliable. Urban legends evolve, and yet the story refuses to settle, because it reflects something true, or fear of hidden influence, or distrust of authority, or awareness that technology shapes behaviour. Polybius does not need to be real to be meaningful. Now, if Polybius was a hoax, it was an effective one. If it was a myth, it was perfectly timed. And if somehow it was real, then it succeeded. Because Polybius is still being played, not in arcades, but in our minds. A reminder that the most frightening machines are not the ones that entertain us. They are the ones that simply observe us.